Tita. No. On te regarde même pas, tu n'es pas là. C'est ça. Quand tu es là,
Okay, we are on Facebook Live as well, and it's just 2 minutes to the hour. And we have 120 people.
So to the panelists, I hope you have selected your language under the interpretation icon.
Yes.
Yeah. And the French interpretation is good, Osman?
Yes. Both French and Spanish interpretation are working. So Spanish speakers, I can see there are so many people on the Skype group already who have joined the call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Chef Touré, l'interprétation est active. S'il vous plaît, si vous pouvez sélectionner.
Ok, on va Tara. Anil quoi? Ah baby, viens voir. Fais un
Okay, so for the panelists, please remember to mute yourselves, and you will just talk when I call or Bela calls upon you.
Français, voilà, c'est ça. On a sélectionné les français, c'est bon. Hein? C'est pas normal. C'est pas, sinon ce matin on avait avec ça.
So is everything okay with Brahima?
Oui, bonjour.
Oui,
Oui,
okay. Good. So please just.
Je suis là.
Est-ce
Vous
que
m'entendez?
l'interprétation marche? Oui, 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 on vous entend.
Ok,
Mais est-ce que l'interprétation marche chez vous?
Oui, ça marche.
D'accord. Mais...
Okay. It is now exactly 5 o'clock, so I think let us begin. So, good morning, good day, good evening from wherever you're joining us today. It is now, I think, 1 minute past 5 o'clock. That is where I am in Nairobi. And I think it's a good time to start. So allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sarah Ruto, and I work with the PAL network. And our chairperson, Dr. Stuman, who should have been speaking, said that she'd rather the panelists speak. So you will not be hearing from her today. So we from the PAL network extend a very, very warm welcome. We appreciate that you have joined us today as we launch the ICAN report, whose journey began about 2 years ago. However, ICAN, which of course you know is the International Common Assessment of Numeracy, is just our recent baby. It's our recent history. But the PAL network has a longer history that began in 2015 somewhere in India. And we are very, very happy that one of our panelists will take us that journey as we talk about why today is such a momentous occasion for us. So today, the leaders from the 14 countries spread across Africa, Asia, and the Americas are very pleased to host you today. And they have accepted that I will speak on their behalf, though normally they are very good speakers and they do speak for themselves. But because the time is short, I extend a very warm welcome on their behalf. And according to the registration details that we have been informed, it tells us that you are drawn from the universities, from civil society organizations, both national civil society organizations, international civil society organizations. Our funders and supporters have also joined us today, and we are grateful to them because they have enabled this work to happen. Government officials from across many countries are with us. People from the UN agencies, the media are here. and of course the PAL network member organizations and the volunteers. Please allow me to single out the volunteers because they traversed the miles to be able to collect this evidence that we shall be presenting to you today. So a very, very warm welcome to you all. I know many of you perhaps are joining in via the Zoom webinar, and there are also those who are joining in via Facebook Live. So before we get to the program as we unfold, please allow me to make three very quick announcements. So first of all, you will be able to see and to hear the speakers. To manage the meeting, the participants' audio and video has been disabled. However, we encourage you to communicate via the chat function. Please do write your questions, do write your comments, and these will form a critical part of the launch as we proceed. Secondly, we are also very happy that we will be relaying this function in the 3 languages, and we are counting on technology to work for us today. So for those on the Zoom webinar, please do select your preferred language. You will see an icon written interpretation. You will select whether you want English or French. Please do that if you haven't done that already. And for those who are joining in and need Spanish interpretation, a link will have been communicated to you earlier on, and it is on your screen right now. This is a Skype link, so for those who need Spanish interpretation, please join in. However, for those joining via Facebook Live, it will only be available in English language. But if you do need interpretation, then we'd like to urge you to join via the Zoom link, because then you will be able to get at least French interpretation. Some of our speakers will be speaking in French, and Zoom gives us those 2 alternatives. They claim you can do multiple languages, but whenever we've tried, it doesn't quite work. And then this is mainly a comment, an announcement for the panelists. Please do not click on any link that comes in the Q&A chat. We have been told that this is the hacker's heaven. That is how they access meetings which they're not supposed to be in. So if you see a link, please do not click onto it. And more announcements will be coming along, but with those few remarks, I'd like us to now go directly to the meat of why we are all here, and we shall be receiving a presentation of the ICAN process. ICAN is about what we are able to do. And we are really proud that we can say that we have been able, as a number of countries from the global south, to do something common, something comparable. And this process we think is so very important. And as well as the findings, a little bit we'll touch on what it's telling us, but it's really about the possibilities of what we are doing. And we are very happy that Keaton, who has been with the process, who has been chaperoning it and thinking through it, galvanizing members from the various countries. And he will be presenting to us these findings, which will then launch the key highlight, which will be the presentation by our guest speaker and of course our panel speakers. So Keaton, the ICAN process and findings, please.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Hello, everyone who've joined us today. I'm not very sure of the internet, so I will switch on my video for this bit when I'm speaking. So just allow me that. Also, I will try to keep this presentation brief so that we have enough time to hear from our esteemed panelists. Usman, next slide. So we will start with a little bit of a background of what we do. Why was ICAN developed? What does it measure? And what are some of the key findings from the first large-scale round of implementation that we completed last year? Usman, next slide. Right. For those of our viewers who are not very familiar with what we do, I will just give a quick summary. The citizen-led assessment approach was born in India in 2005 when Pratham designed an innovative approach to assessing the foundational reading and numeracy abilities of all children, regardless of their schooling status. This assessment is the Annual Status of Education Report, or ASER, in India. Over the past 15 years, the ASER tools and approach have been borrowed and adapted by many countries across the global south. You can see here on the screen, there are pictures from various countries across Africa, Asia, and America, where children are being assessed by ordinary people using the same citizen-led approach. In 2015, the People's Action for Learning PAL network, a partnership of member organizations working across 3 continents using this citizen-led assessment approach, was formally established with the secretariat based in Nairobi, Kenya. Next slide, please. So what makes these assessments relevant for the global south context, and how they are different from the other traditional assessments that we have globally? These assessments are conducted in the households to represent all children in the target population, not only those who are regularly attending officially recognized schools. Many children in our countries are still struggling to read even after several years of schooling. Our citizen-led assessments are conducted orally and one-on-one, as this is the only way to understand what children know and can do independently of whether or not they can read. These assessments focus on foundational reading and numeracy covered in early classes, since we know that learning outcomes are far below grade level for many children currently enrolled in school. The assessment tools and processes are simple to use and understand in order to facilitate engagement by a wide range of stakeholders, including parents and community members. And finally, in order to encourage local discussions and solutions, citizen-led assessments are implemented in collaboration with organizations, institutions, and individuals. The existing country-level citizen-led assessments that we had are nationally relevant snapshots of what children can or cannot do. So the question really is, why did we come up with an ICAN? Next slide, please, Usman. Okay, so most of us are aware that the Sustainable Development Goal, SDG, indicator 4.1.1 tracks the proportion of children and young people in grades 2 or 3 at the end of primary education and at the end of lower secondary education, achieving at least a minimum proficiency level in reading and mathematics by the year 2030. All education systems expect children to acquire foundational abilities of reading and numeracy in the first few years. Large proportions of children lag behind curriculum expectations, but they are rarely offered a chance to catch up. Hence, we are most concerned about children in grades 2 or 3 or within that age group, because we feel it is critical to measure learning early so that corrective action can be implemented in time. To track the progress of these children in early grades, robust and regular data on learning outcomes are needed over time and across countries. But almost all other international and regional assessments are school-based and exclude children who are not enrolled. These assessments, in most cases, do not cover children in classes 2 or 3. Even national assessment programs are based on country-level objectives and standards, and in most cases are not comparable. Hence, we can say that the existing comparable data that we have has little relevance to track progress towards SDG 4.1.1 for grades 2 or 3. Next slide, please. Right. So ICAN, or International Common Assessment of Numeracy, builds on the features of CLAs that we discussed a little while ago, but offers direct comparability of numeracy outcomes. So what does it measure? The minimum proficiency level descriptor for numeracy under SDG 4.1.1 for grades 2 or 3 requires children to demonstrate skills in number sense and computation, shape recognition, and spatial orientation. ICAN was developed collaboratively by PAL network members, drawing on the expertise and experience of each member organization. An assessment framework was developed that is based on a broader understanding and requirements for numeracy in the early grades. additional strands of basic mathematics encompassing number knowledge, measurement, geometry, and simple statistics in the form of data display were included to increase the scope of the skills assessed with ICAN compared to the previous country level citizen-led assessments that we had. As a result, you can see that 50% tasks on ICAN are based on number knowledge and other 50% on geometry, measurement, and data display. Along with this assessment tool, contextual questionnaires were also developed to record information on each child's current schooling status, households, and community characteristics. Next slide, please. Okay, here are some sample tasks from the ICAN assessment tool. In the first panel on the left, there are tasks on space, shape, and measurement. Then in the second panel, you can see some tasks, some sample tasks on numbers. We included both simpler and slightly advanced number operations with carryover, borrow, and remainder. Worded problems were also included on the ICAN assessment. In the third panel, you can see tasks like telling the time from the clock, looking at a simple data display and do easy operations, and telling date from a calendar. ICAN assessment tool is also available on the PAL network website. So you can see that on the website after the webinar. Next slide, please, Usman. Okay, now just moving to the actual implementation. ICAN was implemented towards the end of last year to demonstrate the feasibility of using a common set of tools across very different country contexts. Translation, training, data collection procedures were standardized across all participating countries and were based on PAL Network's data quality standards framework, which is informed by international best practices in assessment. ICAN was implemented by PAL member organizations in collaboration with local partner institutions, a practice that also continued from our traditional citizen-led assessment programs. As a summary of sampling, ICAN was conducted in 13 countries. In this first edition of ICAN, survey coverage was limited to a rural sample, and the scale of the survey was limited to one district in each participating country. While selecting this one district in each country, it was ensured that existing assessment data did not identify the district as an outlier in terms of children's foundational numeracy. In each of these sample districts, 60 rural communities were randomly sampled in order to generate estimates that were representative of that district. And in each rural community, the assessment was administered in 20 randomly sampled households to all children in the age group of 5 to 16 years. Next slide, please, Usman. Right. Okay, so the map now that you see now on your screen shows the geographic spread of ICAN in Eastern and Southern Africa, Western Africa, America, and South Asia. Overall, we assessed more than 20,000 children in over 15,000 households across 779 rural communities in these 13 global South countries. Next slide, please, Usman. Okay, the sampling strategy that we just described generates a representative picture only of the sample district in each of these participating countries. Therefore, ICAN data that we have from this round cannot be used as a proxy for national estimates or to compare countries. The purpose of this first round of implementation was to understand the kinds of comparisons that the use of ICAN on scale facilitates, rather than to compare these specific districts. Hence, you will see that in the ICAN report, the district names are anonymized as location 1, location 2, and so on, while showing comparative analysis. But in the district pages in the report, estimates on enrollment and learning are presented for a standardized set of indicators along with the district names. Next slide, please, Usman. All right. So what are some of the key findings? And we will share just 3 quick ones for now. Hopefully you can see 3 charts on your screen. If you remember, the minimum proficiency level descriptor for numeracy under SDG 4.1.1a expects students to demonstrate skills in number sense and computation, shape recognition, and spatial orientation in class 2 or 3. These charts on your screen show the proportion of children in class 2 and 3, chart 1, class 4 and 6 in the chart 2, and class 7 and 8 in chart 3. Proportion of children who are able to do a set of foundational numeracy tasks that proxy the minimum proficiency level requirements for SDG 4.1.1a. These charts also identify the class group by when at least 75% or 3/4 of children in a given location are able to do this set of tasks, which is denoted by green bars. So in chart 1, you can see that no location has at least 75% children in class 2 or 3 who can do numeracy tasks mapped to SDG 4.1.1a criteria. Even in the 3 best performing locations, which is locations 1, 3, and 9, only a little over half the children enrolled in class 2-3 were able to do the simple numeracy tasks aligned to SDG 4.1.1a. Chart 2 shows that for class 4 to 6, even in the 3 best performing locations, which are locations 3, 10, and 12, approximately 1/5 of children are still unable to do the simple numeracy tasks aligned to SDG 4.1.1a. In the 8 locations for which sufficient data is available, it is only by class 7 or 8 that all locations, except one, location 7, have over 3/4 of children who demonstrate minimum proficiency. But even in these classes, you can see that many children are still unable to do numeracy tasks expected in class 2 or 3. Next slide, please, Usman. All right. Okay. So since ICAN was conducted in the households, it generated information on enrollment patterns for children age 5 to 16. This chart on your screen explores enrollment patterns among children in the age group of 6 to 10 years, which is the primary school going age group in most countries. As you can see that in 3 locations, locations 4, 6, and 11, more than 3 in every 10 children aged 6 to 10 are not enrolled in school. So despite 2 decades of national commitments to achieving ambitious global goals to ensure all children have access to free quality education, many primary school age children are still out of school. You can also see that there is enormous variation across these locations. In the type, you can see that there is enormous variations across these locations in the types of schools that enrolled children go to. So in some locations, many children are enrolled in private schools, but in other locations, almost all children are enrolled in public schools. Next slide, please, Usman. Finally, this chart on your screen explores learning disparities between in-school and out-of-school children, taking the ICAN assessment in only 2 locations, where we found a lot of out-of-school children. In location 4 and location 11, over 40% and 30% children, respectively, in the age group of 8 to 10 years are not enrolled in school. Children aged 8 to 10 years are usually enrolled in classes 3 to 5. In terms of learning outcomes, you can see that in location 11, only 1/4 of children who were enrolled in school were able to do the foundational numeracy tasks aligned to SDG 4.1.1a. In location 4, only 1 in 10 children who were enrolled in school were able to do so. But in both these locations, the proportion of children who can do these simple tasks drops to under 3% for out-of-school children. It is vital that these out-of-school children are included in the data and discussion on learning to provide a true picture of progress towards achieving both national and global goals. Next slide, Usman. And I promise everyone this is the last slide. Okay. Just as a summary, ICAN is open source and it is currently available in 11 languages. Most of its tasks are aligned to grade 3 level or lower of UNESCO Global Proficiency Framework. It is suitable to use in both households and in schools, and is simple and quick to administer and understand, and hence easy to scale, especially in low resource settings. Just as the last point, as we all know that the clock to 2030 is ticking, the year when we need to meet the target to ensure that all children have acquired at least the basics. We believe that to do this, we need less top-down and more granular measurements of learning to fuel policy and practice change. Considering that COVID-19 has pushed millions of children further away from schooling, we believe that this is a critical time to reinvest in foundational learning. And PAL Network's ICAN offers us a start. So on that note, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Keaton. If numeracy is an indicator of the progress towards SDGs, you can all see that we are not doing very well. And we will be talking more about that. So as we are preparing to welcome Sylvia, who will say a few words as she launches this report for us, there'll be no cutting of ribbons in the traditional way, but maybe we can symbolically cut the ribbon wherever we are. We will just remind ourselves of the key issues through a photo essay of the various images from the different countries. Osman, please. Thank you very much. These were quick images put together by our partner from Asar, Bangladesh. And now it is my privilege to welcome Sylvia to launch for us a report which is available in the website. And as she says, a few remarks.
Thank you so much. And yes. Thank you, and thank you so much. For me, it's quite a great pleasure, and I am really very moved for seeing the progress and seeing the images of the countries. It's very important as the director of the agency who is leading and coordinating on SDG 4 measurement to see the progress. Is amazing for this level of schooling that now due to the COVID has appeared to be critical. So I just want to actually to have a few remarks about the size of the challenge. According to our estimate, we have almost 700 kids that are not able to read and to properly manage skills in numeracy that are actually granting for them success in life. That is obviously a problem for the whole society. But we also know that this is also a challenge for many of our countries in the global south that are facing many of the challenges, that are having difficulties, and they are really with difficulties to catching up while there are no tools, there is no granular measurement, and the policymakers need to be informed, they need to be aware, and they need to have easy information to judge that has not been easily done, because it just takes a lot of effort and accuracy and robustness to do what it has been seen now in the slides. But it needs to be put in a format and in a way to be presented that is actually easy for the policymakers to handle. This is also an area of work, and this is especially from the foundational learning skills that we know that are foundations, are basic to everything, and are basic for the rest of the learning, are basic for the success in life, and are very difficult, very easy to lose. And to some extent, there are a lot of tools that are advising us in terms of what to do, how to improve, how to invest, but we do not have information. ICAN comes in this context from a long story from PAL Network that we should not be forgetting, but it has been the result of years of work, and it's what all is right in terms of what needs to happen. It's an open source, it's a result of a collaborative work between countries, is aligned to what is a commitment that at the highest political level and all the stakeholders has made 4 years ago, 5 years ago, in terms of what we actually aim to achieve and what we want for the quality of life and learning for our kids and youth. And this is actually going in the right direction. It's one of the few tools for areas of work and for geographies that we don't have information. We're very excited, we're very much welcoming, we're working close to the PAL network team to actually to work and to see how it is aligned. We have experience and we know that it will be able to report at the international level. So we will also be able to make comparisons and try to see where things are. And I think that this is actually for us very important. I just want to actually to highlight that for us it's a tool of measurement, but it's a tool of improving the life of everybody and all society's illnesses, the quality of life, its health, its unemployment. And the COVID has brought to the table that is a critical area of measurement, is an area of work. It has been proven by previous work done regarding holidays and some big natural causes that we have seen, that the foundational learning skills are the ones who are easier to actually to lose, and we need to have information. ICAN tool comes exactly in the right moment, with the right characteristic, with the right features. I am really very excited. I am more than happy and ecstatic to see that this is one of our steps in providing measurement to policymakers, and for us to build on that effort and trying to see how we could help to guide and to provide information for this COVID crisis that is happening right now. Congratulations for all the team, congratulations to the countries, congratulations to all of the ones of us who has been involved, and we feel we have something that go on regarding this launch. Congratulations to everybody. I'm happy to be here with you and to share with you this moment. Thank you so much for this honor. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much. And I presume you have officially launched our report, right?
Yes, I am officially launched the report, and I am really excited to do that. Thank you for this honor and this privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So we can imagine some photos from the media happening at the moment. Yes. A quick reminder that we are relaying this in 3 languages. I know many people joined us after the discussions. Please select your language if you are in the Zoom, the webinar on the interpretation, while Spanish is available via a link, Skype link that has been shared. Please also remember to share your questions in the Q&A. I know some are in the comments, and there are people who are tracking this from the various channels that's happening. Without any more remarks from me, I'd now like to hand over to Bela. Bela is from ASA Pakistan and heads ITA, and she's also the chairperson of the PAL Network Advisory Group that we have, and she will be moderating the next 50 minutes, and she will shortly introduce to you the exciting speakers that we have. Bela, please.
Thank you, Sarah, and congratulations to everyone. So delightful to have Sylvia launch the report. And without much ado, we need to move forward to amazing panelists that we have. And remember, just in the spirit of the PAL network and the ICAN tool, our speakers today also represent the geographical diversity of this network and the voices from different parts of the world. We have with us, first of all, Mr. from Mali, from West Africa, Bourima Ale Touré, who's the chairperson of the National Council of Civil Society Organizations. He's a renowned figure and voice of the civil societies in education, health, democracy, and decentralization. And he has also managed large education programs that have focused on access and quality, supported by UNICEF, World Bank, and USAID. It's a huge amount of experience, and we can't wait to hear from him. Mr. Touré will be followed by Dr. Silvia Schmurkes. She is the academic vice president of the Universidad Iberoamericana in Mexico City. She has also been with the National Institute of Educational Evaluation. She's best known for her work in intercultural education, and a book towards better quality of our schools is very well known and a much awarded speaker. So really looking forward to hearing from Sylvia. And of course, Dr. Rukmini Banerjee, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Pratham Education Foundation. And we all say the grandmother, the grand matriarch actually of of the citizen-led assessments, teaching at the right level. And for 10 years, she was as the director of the ASA Center, the Pratham's Autonomous Research and Assessment Unit, which conducts the nationwide annual status of education report. And so many of us have taken inspiration from there. Rukmini is the greatest storyteller of all, and we will be hearing wonderful stories from her. And her conviction is that every child can learn well, is stronger today than ever before. And who can deny that? And last but not least, Dr. James Utino Joey, who is the Principal Education Officer at the East African Community Secretariat, where he coordinates the development and implementation of regional education programs and frameworks, which includes harmonization of education systems. And we are so excited because he's also the founding executive director of the African Network for Internationalization of Education, ANI. And, you know, we all feel extremely envious when we hear of the wonderful networks of education in Africa, the networks for education, but also amongst ministers and civil society and professionals. So we really have a packed panel discussion. And we'd like to start, first of all, with Mr. Toure from Mali. And I think looking at what we've seen.
Merci. C'est avec plaisir.
Good evening. Mr. Toure, we would love to hear when you look at the significance of this tool and the complexity of the challenges that we have today in Mali and West Africa and the rest of the world. How do you see the power of this ICAN tool taking us forward? We'd love to hear perspectives from West Africa. Over to you, Mr. Toure.
Merci beaucoup. C'est avec bonheur qu'on on rejoint ICAN parce que c'est un outil formidable, un outil simple, utilisable, dont on en a besoin. Et nous le savons parce que nous sommes dans les évaluations depuis 2011 jusqu'à ce jour et nous avons constaté que la qualité des enseignements apprentissages a beaucoup baissé, mais particulièrement dans le domaine des mathématiques. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle nous sommes heureux d'être avec PAL pour vraiment continuer à mesurer la qualité de l'éducation dans notre pays. Mais ce matin, je vais vous entretenir pratiquement de la question de l'éducation en situation d'urgence, mais aussi en situation de grève successive des enseignants et aussi avec le Covid-19. Et au Mali, nous avons les organisations internationales, les ONG et le gouvernement qui travaillent pour la baisse drastique, vraiment, de la déperdition scolaire et pour l'augmentation de la qualité de l'éducation. D'abord, une petite rétrospective. Au Mali, nous sommes aujourd'hui à 77% de scolarisation comme taux brut dans le fondamental 1 et 54% comme taux brut de scolarisation dans le fondamental 2. Dans une telle situation, peu d'enfants ont la chance d'achever leur éducation de base et ceci qui amène à dire que le taux d'achèvement du fondamental 1 actuel est à 51% et celui du fondamental 2 à 30%. Vous voyez ce taux qui est très bas, mais aussi en termes d'équité, il faut noter la disparité entre les genres. qui ont été fortement réduites, mais il faut aussi se dire que l'indice de parité entre les genres basé sur le taux d'achèvement est simplement de 0,85% dans l'enseignement fondamental 1 et 0,81% dans le fondamental 2, et ceci au détriment des filles. La situation éducative s'est de plus en plus dégradée depuis 2012, parce que notre pays, 2012 est un point très important. C'est à ce moment que nous avons connu un grand changement, un coup d'État dans notre pays qui a arrêté le pays, mais aussi c'est le démarrage de l'insécurité, de la rébellion et le début de l'invasion des terroristes dans notre pays. Et ceci n'est pas sans conséquence, parce que cette situation d'insécurité persistante et omniprésente a exigé la fermeture des écoles, de beaucoup d'écoles. Et si nous voulons comparer un peu de 2017 à aujourd'hui, je vous donne des chiffres et retenez-les très bien. Pour l'année scolaire 2016-2017, nous avons assisté à la fermeture de 500 écoles. L'année scolaire 2017-2018, à 715 écoles. L'année scolaire 2019, à 1217 écoles fermées, pour 365 100 élèves concernés, soit 13% des écoles au Mali. Et en mars 2020, nous sommes à 1261 écoles fermées avec 378 300 enfants concernés, soit 14% des écoles maliennes. À cette situation s'ajoute bien sûr le problème de protection de l'enfance, à savoir les châtiments corporels ou physiques, les mariages précoces, l'absence de certificat de naissance qui ne permet pas l'inscription de l'enfant à l'école, l'exploitation des enfants, les violences basées sur le genre. Tous ces problèmes affectent négativement la qualité de l'éducation ainsi que la scolarisation et la fréquentation scolaire, en particulier pour les filles. Comme si ce tableau ne suffisait pas, le Covid-19 aussi est venu se greffer. Et cette situation a obligé le gouvernement à prendre la décision de fermer toutes les écoles. Ainsi, tous les enfants, soit 3 800 000 enfants pour le primaire et 2 millions d'enfants non scolarisés sont privés d'école. Et ça a des conséquences, bien sûr. Cette décision va entraîner davantage la déperdition scolaire des apprenants, qui se traduit par l'abandon pour des la baisse continue du niveau de formation des apprenants, le risque d'enrôlement des scolaires dans les mouvements djihadistes, le risque accentué d'abus, d'exploitation et de violence, un manque d'accès aux services de protection de l'enfant, l'accentuation de l'exode rural et de migration des enfants. Et ceci, il faut le reconnaître, va avoir des conséquences sur la qualité de l'éducation. Et nous sommes sûrs, si nous envisageons une évaluation des qualités, nous serons très, très, très bas. Je vais m'arrêter là. S'il y a des questions, je saurai répondre à cela, parce que nous continuons à faire nos évaluations citoyennes dans les BNH et le dernier rapport date de 2016. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. And I think your comments have just, highlighted that how in such complex situation, a simple tool and a robust tool such as ICAN, I think can provide a lot of solutions, because this is not only about assessment, but also learning solutions. We move quickly to Dr. Sylvia. And Dr. Sylvia, I know that we are so pleased that you have been associated with our network. And we would love to hear what the power of networks today means when it comes to SDG 4.1.1. And what are your thoughts, having so much experience in issues of education evaluation? Over to you, Sylvia.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate the PAL network for this very, very important report of ICAN. And I would like to stress the virtues that I see in this exercise. For me, the most important virtue is the fact that this is an exercise in global democracy. This is a work done by citizens that are concerned about the education of the youth of the world, developing methodologically sound instruments for measuring learning and for generating information that is useful at the local, national, regional, and global level. That is, for me, the most important thing to point out about this exercise. But also because it measures foundational learning. Together with the instrument on measuring reading, which we hear is coming next from the PAL network. And I believe that this is what has to be measured, foundational learning. I think there are things that all children in the world have to learn, wherever they live, and whatever their culture is. And the foundations are clearly among them. There are also many different things that children in different contexts should learn. And while doing so, they should attain social-emotional skills, citizenship education, critical thinking, and the ability and the wish to continue learning from school and from life. All of these are more difficult to measure, and perhaps their assessment should be left more to the micro-level endeavors. But foundational learning is something that should be measured worldwide. Another thing that I would like to point out is that this exercise is dealing with a key indicator of development. Learning adequately, learning with equity, these things are able to be converted into indicators with this tool that ICAN is offering us today. It is also information that can be fed into policy, into teacher training and teaching. The aftermath of COVID-19 is an example, I think, of how this can occur. It is an instrument that gives dimension to the problem of learning, that also identifies children, areas, and regions that need special treatment, and it allows for teaching at the right level, as the PAL network has often said. After the pandemic, schools will have to focus on foundational learning, and information generated by this instrument that ICAN represents is key to fine-tune planning on how to go about it. And all of these things that I am pointing out are, besides very important facts that other people have already pointed out before me. First, that it is a simple instrument. Second, that it can be adequately applied by volunteers who require little training for applying it. Third, that it is carried out in households and not in schools, and thus that it includes both out-of-school children, which school assessments do not include, as has been pointed out, and also that it is free of the bias and the perverse effects that in-school assessments have and that we all know about. You have shown us that it is translatable to 11 languages already. Also, I think an advantage is that it is orally applied on a one-to-one basis, and this avoids the mediation of the written language for the measurement of a different skill, which is mathematical, it's numeracy. And so not having the mediation of the written language, we really know whether the numeracy skills are there. Another thing, that it is cheap, and I think this is very important at a time like this. After the pandemic, education budgets will probably plummet. This tool is very, very important. It makes it not necessary to sacrifice assessment, probably. And another important fact is that it is aligned to target 4.1.1 of the SDGs, and that it can be used among other large-scale assessments to monitoring our progress towards our common education agenda. This instrument that is being offered today, is being launched today, takes advantage of the history of PAL and of the experience with citizen-led assessments. It has become global, and it can and should expand through the Global South. So thank you very much for this opportunity of commenting on a very, very important instrument that is being launched today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. I think you've highlighted the great value for money that this tool brings, especially in these difficult times, but also in terms of providing more global democratic depth, but also issues where issues of equity are not overlooked. This organic network, which has come together to produce a global public good, has been quite a journey. And really, we are so blessed today to have Rukmini Banerjee with us, as I said, the matriarch of this entire journey, and who has allowed us to be unique, to be adaptive, to be innovative, and yet where we have all abided by a code of conduct. It'll be wonderful to hear from Rukmini, especially at this time, of how ICAN will be fit for purpose when it comes to SDG 4.1, but also taking forward the big challenges of COVID-19 and how to address issues of learning. Over to you, Rukmini. So pleasurable to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Bela. Namaste, salam alaikum from Delhi, and on behalf of all my ASR colleagues from Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India, it's really a pleasure to be here. And I have to say that while we are all talking about global events and important assessment news, it is also an emotional moment for this whole family. And I think since everybody is calling me the grandmother and my hair is white, I should go ahead and on behalf of the family, spend a few minutes being a little bit emotional. I mean, this is a journey that started in villages in India. And little did we think 10, 15, 20 years ago that what we were doing with our own children, with little pieces of paper, would one day emanate and end up in this global moment. I mean, we're all sitting at home, but looking at all of you and looking at all the participants, it's just amazing that this journey should have happened this way. Sarah, I remember when you and Professor Sumra came to Delhi, we went to a village in UP, and I remember with everybody, of course, in villages gets excited when people come from outside. And Professor and I sat on a little string cot, and the string cot broke. There was a little puppy under the cot who, poor guy, he survived, but it was a narrow escape from two citizen-led assessment people who had decided to arrive in their village. I have other memories of going with friends from Mali and from Senegal to other remote areas where nobody would allow us to do ASR because they felt that if visitors have come from so far, we must show them our village and we must show them what our buffaloes do and so on. And then Felipe and Samana birthday in rural Bihar. So I'm just saying all these stories because I do think that behind the development and the evolution of this tool, which today can stand shoulder to shoulder with Sylvia and all the things that she represents, Sylvia Monotoya, is an amazing collection of people who traveled on their own from different parts of the world to learn from each other. And these journeys have been from Nairobi to Delhi, from Delhi to Dakar, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, to the interior villages. And none of our journeys took us either to New York or to Paris or to where major global decisions are usually taken. So I think it's an incredible moment for the global South to have come up, done something voluntarily, organically, rigorously together. And today we have something that we can offer the world that was developed by us. In many ways, I wish we could call the tool not I can, but we can, because it really is a we can moment. And I think that the next tool should be called we will, because this is what is going to take us further. And so really I think from everyone, from every volunteer in our vast networks, from people who've been associated with us through this whole journey, some of whom are watching on Zoom, it's difficult to name everyone, but I think that this is a testament to much more than an assessment tool being ready for the world. It is the fact that when we all get together and focus and think about what are the key problems that affect us all. I remember going to a village in Uganda, and although the cities look different, when we were in the household of someone, talking to the children, it felt exactly like back home. So we have many more things that unite us, and I think we should go on that strength. And at this moment, when we are all struck by this incredible, difficult times, I think to think about the children and to think that if we focus and find out where kids are, what their fundamental levels are, and work to make sure that we and they come out of this crisis stronger, because we can meet them where they are and take them further. So thank you so much, Bela, for giving me this opportunity. And it's really, really an incredible moment. And I'm so happy to be part of it.
Thank you, Rukmini. We'd love to hear much more from you. I know that the time is limited, but it's just been an amazing journey for all of us, wherever we came from, to visit different villages in India, the kind of welcome we got, the kind of commonality that struck, and the way we've all worked together as apprentices and learners and matured to this point of creating this wonderful tool with so much rigor. And when I see Sylvia and the moments where, we said, okay, tell us what more can we do? How much more rigor can we have? It's just been a pleasure that, in 2018, when we sat together with all the big global assessment bigwigs of the world in Paris, we said, we've got to take this tool to another level. And there it is. And I hope people will test it out, as it is an open source tool. And also to let you know, because at this time, when so many children, we are talking about learning losses and enrollment losses during COVID, well, this tool has always been, the citizen-led assessment tools have always been at the household level. And the reason was just this, that so many children are out of school or at a particular day do not attend school. So it looks at all. And when it goes to the household level, it is looking at children both in public and non-state or private schools. So it truly is quite amazing. But it is so wonderful to have our next speaker with us, because he has been working in an area that we are all passionate about, but especially from a systems level, because we have with us Dr. James Otenio Joey, who has been involved at a regional level and has been working on harmonization of the education systems. And we are really intrigued how ICAN can be used at this time, but also more importantly, how it can be working effectively at the systems level to upgrade issues of foundational learning, so that we can, look at the temperature in a much more granular way on learning and see what can be done at the systems level, because that's where learning will definitely be improved. So over to Dr. James. We're looking to hear from you and have ideas on how ICAN can benefit harmonization.
Thank you so much, and it's a great pleasure for me to join you in this debate. and quite difficult to make comments after the very passionate presentations that have been made. But first of all, allow me to congratulate the PAL network for this great achievement of the launch of the ICAN report, which actually has a lot of implications on the work that we do and also on how we go forward with the teaching and learning processes, especially at these lower levels. I represent the East African community, which is a community bringing together 6 partner states in the eastern parts of Africa. And my role is mainly to coordinate the development of policies and frameworks for education. And as has been mentioned in the introduction, the 6 East African countries came together and committed to cooperate in education, training, science and technology and research. And for the talk today, I think it's important to mention what has been undertaken in harmonization of the education systems of these partner states. To facilitate mobility, mutual recognition of qualifications, comparability of qualifications, and enhancement of quality and standards, which actually relate to the debate today, these countries decided to harmonize their systems from the year 2008. And the different cycles of education have been harmonized, and the debate we are having today about assessment is quite key for us because while we have developed assessment tools, especially for the higher levels of learning, this has not been done for the area that we are working on. And at this note, I think I would like to also congratulate the PAL network and ICAN for developing this tool, and also for the fact that it has been developed by the South-South partnerships, which based on my background on internationalization is quite a big achievement because a lot of our policies and frameworks have been actually adopted from those that have been usually developed by the West. So I think this is a great achievement. And on the same note, I wish to once again congratulate the group. In addition to what I've said, I think assessment is quite key because what cannot be measured actually does not count. So I think it's very important that we do this, and especially at this right level where we try to see whether our young people, the children, are learning at that lower level. And for us at the East African community, this is very important because it is quite a big challenge. The countries are at different levels of development and also engaging with education, but still we really need to look at how does this inform policy, because part of what I do is to bring together the policymakers for the region. And this that I think happens in other regions too. How can this tool, how can this work be used to inform policy? How can we use it to improve learning? And how can it be possible that such a tool can be domesticated at national, but also at regional levels where we work to facilitate measurement and also ensuring that the teaching and learning processes are going on as expected. One other thing that is a challenge to us that this model or this framework can help us bridge is the challenge of data. Data on the learning processes, data on different educational activities which we undertake where we actually do not have possibilities currently. And this is a challenge across the continent of getting actual and valid information about the things that we do. Already 3 countries in the East African region are participating in this process, which is a very great step. And I think it would be important. And these are some steps that we can take now that I'm involved in this to try to look at ways through which regional organizations or even national educational structures can utilize tools such as this. The issue of COVID has been mentioned by one of the speakers, and we are really at a very difficult point as a region, and this can be replicated in other regions in just trying to understand whether learners are actually learning at home. I have some of them myself, and it's really difficult to evaluate and understand what's going on. And so as a way forward, I would just conclude by saying that it would be very important to domesticate this tool. A lot of work has already gone into it. It should be domesticated, be it at the national or the regional levels where we work. And I think this is a worthy effort that can be done through much more awareness, advocacy, and utilization of the tool. We have already done a lot of work in developing it, but I think it would be very much important to utilize it. And this can be done actually by bringing more stakeholders on board, bringing policymakers on board, and even some development partners, and not leaving behind the teachers who actually are key to this process. So I want to rest my case at this point, also noting the time constraints that we have, and I can address any further issues during the question and answer session, if there is any. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think we've heard from all four speakers. There are lots of questions coming up, but perhaps let's try and take the first set of questions. We have another 15, 16 minutes, and we'll see how fast we can address those. This is a question which is addressed to Rukmani, and it is from Vikas Plakot from the Central Square Foundation in India. Considering the pandemic and advent of remote learning, the need to distance, how is it possible to replicate this remotely, since it's oral and fairly descriptive? We are working on some household assessments, are finding door-to-door surveys almost an impossibility. Rukmani, over to you.
I agree. This is a very difficult time, and many things that we normally do are not possible at this stage. The ICAN tool is brand new, not even 1 day old. And so therefore, how we can move ahead with it obviously needs some work. But the USR tool that we use in India has been around for a long time. And there are several versions of the tool, both that can be used. Our own teams are developing an app that can be used, because I think that these are not just tools for data collection, for informing policymakers. Of course they are. But I think that these are very simple tools that can be used locally in your own neighborhood, in your own family as well. So what we are doing is we are working on trying to figure out, with these very, very simple tools, how can it be used by parents with their children? How can it be used in the neighborhood and in the village? And while a lot of safety precautions are being taken in many parts of the world, many parts of India as well, there are also those places which are not in a red zone or not in an orange zone. So we are hopeful that things will improve in due course. And I want to also point out that the ICAN effort that was done, great, Bella, to show you how simple it is actually, yes. The ICAN effort was done, some of the last ones were done in the last few months just before COVID hit. So there is really, at least in the locations in which it was done, a measure that was taken, not long before COVID came. And so whenever it is possible, whenever, things are, lockdowns are over, it will be good to use this to go back to those communities to look at, where are the children today?
Thank you, Rukmani. This next question is from Ramya Vivekananda from GPE, and this is to Sarah Ruto. Is it possible to know more about the contextual questionnaires? To whom were or are they administered, and what types of variables are explored? Sarah, are you there?
Yes, thank you. I wasn't expecting any question. Thanks, Ramya. We had 3 types of tools, and one collected household indicators, which are very important because this is what we use to analyze the socioeconomic conditions. And what has always come out is that the children who are from homes that have a little bit more household assets, there seems to be an association with better learning outcomes. The other tool was administered to the village, and getting a variety of indicators from that particular area. So these were the various kinds of tools that were available. Bela. Bela, yeah, we can't hear you.
Your mic is mute. Ma'am, please unmute your mic.
Spanish from Carmen Maria Treminio Zavala from Nicaragua also asked questions in Spanish.
The next question is from Faber Jose, and this is to Dr. Sylvia. And I don't know whether, well, Dr. Sylvia, please take a jab at it. During your assessment or any time of the sampling, as a result, were you able to analyze the reasons for low performance? Are there any recommendations to improve the situation vis-a-vis low performance? To Sylvia.
First, I have to say that I wasn't involved in the assessment. I was invited only as a panelist to comment on the launch. But nevertheless, I do know that PAL has, as Sarah just said, also other instruments that allow for additional information to be able to make statistical inferences about the causes of low performance, and that explain the differences between the different villages and the children within the villages also. So, and I think this is what is important, to be able to identify the causes behind the low performers. But that isn't the only thing that is important. It is also very important to identify who these children are, to know exactly what they don't know how to solve, so that that can be attended to teach at the correct level. And as someone said, evidence-based policy at the school level, at the local level, and at the national level is a consequence of something that can happen as a consequence of using tools such as the one that ICAN signifies and represents. Thank you.
There are lots of questions which are talking about how this tool and its findings be propagated at the national and local levels. And I think, I just wanted to share that that's the phase which will come shortly after this launch today, and we'll be able to respond to you. I also wanted to share that we are planning that there are lots of questions that are coming. Those that are not going to be answered right away, rest assured that we will respond to each one of them and send them to you, because we've got your emails, you've registered. So don't panic if your particular answers are not responded to. I have a question, which is, I think, 2 or 3 similar questions. One from Mose Ariga, another one from Kennedy Olu, on the issue of COVID-19, that it must have negatively affected the gains in the domains of learning. What advice can be given to policymakers to change immediately if countries are to make meaningful progress in light of the COVID lessons? This is to anyone. Maybe a couple of our eminent speakers can respond to this. This is open question to anyone. Rukmini, would you like to say a few words?
Yes. So I would say that we are looking in India at the situation in 2 ways. One is right now when schools are still closed, and all the way till whenever the government decides to open schools. And then, of course, what happens when schools open. So right now, there are a lot of limitations on what can be done. There is difficulties of accessing the internet and so on and so forth. But I think remaining engaged in doing very simple activities at the household level, at the neighborhood level, at the village level, older kids helping younger kids. And I think when Bela showed you the tool, you could see that a lot of these activities are very simple and actually can be done even while kids are playing. So there needs to be a little bit of an effort to do whatever is possible, engage children, families, engage each other during this period before school opens. Once school opens, I think there is obviously many things that need to be done, keeping safety and other norms in place. But a big thing to do when schools open is to meet children at the level at which they are. I think the ICAN tool can play a very big role in trying to understand, when you come into school, where are you on this range of tasks that have been laid out here, and start from where the children are at. As you know, we here in India, in Pratham, over the years have developed this approach, which we call the teaching at the right level approach, which is completely, I think, common sense, which says start where the child is and move to help the children to go to where they need to go. Don't worry about the grade in which they are today. They've been through, children, families, communities have been through tough times, but we are all here and let's meet each other at the level at which we are, give time to settle down and connect, use simple tools, one-on-one, like Sylvia said. If you spend time one-on-one with kids, you pick up not just what their math level or their reading level is, you pick up a lot more about what the child is thinking, what the child is able to do, and then design simple activities that can be done without too much extra cost to start moving and building up, each level. So I think connect and catch up would be my two key words, and do this at the level of the child, do it with teachers, do it with families. And if we focus on building these basic foundations now and when schools open, I think we may be able to come back. I think the UNICEF and UNESCO and World Bank have a very nice line which says, build back better. If we do the right thing at the level of the child and involve communities, involve parents and families, we have a very good chance of treating 2020 not as a crisis year, but as a foundation year, the year that the world did the right thing.
Great, Rukmini. ICAN be a foundational learning tool. I wanted to move to another question, a simpler question actually by Martin. The question is, this is a great and robust effort tool for comparing numeracy across the globe, and it provides solutions. I noticed the tool is available in 11 languages. How were the languages arrived at? What plans are there to include more languages? And I was just wondering whether Ketan would like to respond to this. Ketan, would you?
Sure, ma'am. Thank you. So just responding on this question on languages, since this was our maiden year of implementing the ICAN assessment, we decided to keep the scale limited in terms of geography and in terms of scope of language as well. So we work with 13 member organizations across these 13 countries, and we asked them to select one language that in most cases is a language that is most widely spoken in their countries, but in other cases those were other languages. So the choice of language was slightly more convenient in which member organizations wanted to test children. And then the district sample was also based on the language selected. And while selecting the districts, we looked at whatever assessment data was available to ensure that that district is not an anomaly district in terms of learning levels. In terms of languages, it is again open to members. If we go to new areas, new regions in these countries, there will be need for new languages. For instance, the plan currently is to geographically expand from one district in each country to at least 3. And if those districts that we now go to need a new language, then those new languages will be added to the current languages that we have. So that is the current plan. Thank you.
Many of your questions would be, thank you, Ketan. When you go through the report, maybe many of the questions would be answered. And as I said, that in terms of the impact of this report within the country, we'll come back to you again once the launches and the conversations or roundtables are held. But there's one question which is raised by Sayyida Aroop Iqbal, and this is addressed to me, which really says that good to understand the robustness of citizen-led assessments in countries like India and Pakistan, where we should promote income generation opportunities for all. The spirit of the question is, the spirit of volunteer-run assessments is appreciated, but shouldn't we move towards ensuring that governments have regular systems by incorporating citizen-led assessments into regular assessments with their own paid staff, and can this be achieved? And I just wanted to quickly share with you that in the case of the largest province of Punjab, they actually adapted the citizen-led assessment tool of Asar Pakistan, the entire tool, and have called the Learning and Numeracy Drive, it's called L&D, and really just adapted it. Now it's another question when they mainstream a tool like this, but then it's done like almost for rote learning every week, then certainly your learning levels go up because you're teaching to the test, but are you teaching for comprehension? But it's good to see that a lot of our results are benchmarked to all sector plans. We are coming to the, so I hope we will be, there are several questions. There's some questions on sampling, there are questions on impact, and also the local level influence this tool will have. But we will respond to all your questions. There are 2 or 3 people in our teams who are looking at all the questions. They will cluster the questions and make sure that each one of the question is responded to fully by our teams everywhere. We have a limitation of time, but I really wanted to thank each one of the speakers and the participants who have asked wonderful questions and robust questions as well for the ICAN tool. It really has, you know, what you see there, always we say, you know, you look at a simple tool like this and you think, oh my God, it was just made. But no, this was, you know, we looked at the minimum proficiency level, the descriptors globally, then looked at each country. And I think, Ketan, if this is not well covered for each one, and there is a lot of appetite which has been vetted by today's launch, maybe we can share the entire process of how we arrived at this upgraded tool of the citizen-led assessment called ICAN, because really it took a lot of localization within each country to then come up with the comparability of a tool such as this, so that now we can actually begin to think about using data in a comparable sense and in a global sense. But thank you to each one of our speakers. They were just amazing, and we hope they will now become part of our tribe, of our clan, a global clan, and help us to take this further and really advocate this tool at the systems level. But since it is an open source tool, we welcome every constituency, right from the children, the parents, the communities, the teachers, the district level officers, the states, and the national governments to look at this tool, see how they can use it. And I always say there's a magic to these tools. The other mirror image of these tools is actually take each one of the tool and the different proficiencies and see how you can play, have fun with it, and see how you can actually learn, improve the learning outcomes of children exactly with these tools. Have fun with it. Rukmani is already doing it. Some of the other countries are doing it during this COVID time. So enjoy the ICAN tool, and thank you once again for being there, and thank you to our panelists. We finished this session.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bela. And now I'd like us to come to the concluding remarks, which will be shared by Goretti. So Goretti, karibu. And as Goretti prepares to join in, I'd like to remind the PAL leaders and the panelists to please remain behind for another 15 to 20 minutes for our press conference, because we have a number of media people here and they may have additional questions for you. And we will also have an evaluation item. Please do fill it. Goretti, please come and give us the concluding remarks and thank yous.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you so much. As you said, my name is Goretti of Uwezo Uganda, which is a member organization of the PAL Network. It's really a great pleasure for me to give the concluding remarks on behalf of the PAL Network members at this historic event. So I'd like to appreciate the speakers and panelists at this event, Dr. Sylvia Montoya, Mr. Burima Ture, Dr. Sylvia Skimix, Dr. Rukmin Banerjee, Dr. James Joey, and to you, Dr. Sarah and Ketan and the session chair, for your truly inspiring remarks about the role that ICAN assessment can play in improving education outcomes and our future in general. really, from your remarks, we've been able to understand powerfully the importance of doing something common or comparable to measure progress towards achievement of SDG 4.11 done by citizens in the Global South. And at this point, let me also thank our volunteers all over the 13 countries who have made us, who have made it possible to realize this big achievement. We've also been able to understand from the truly inspiring remarks by the panelists and speakers that ICAN comes at a time when there is a lack of a common tool or measure for foundational learning at grade 2 and 3, which is a very, very critical level, as the speakers have actually highlighted. We've also learned from the speakers and from the findings that even before COVID-19, the foundational skills were actually very low in many countries, if we had to go by the findings of the ICAN assessment. So comparable measures like ICAN is needed needed now more than ever before to measure the gains or losses. Actually, probably there are going to be more losses after COVID. The losses that we are making to devise collective solutions. For example, we will need more interventions to ensure that every child is learning at the right level, because many, as everybody thinks, will be left behind. We've also learned from the speakers and panelists that ICAN is not only a measure of learning outcomes, but it's also a tool for improving lives. Through this comparative measure, it's very possible to identify those children who are left behind so that interventions can be made to support them. It's also not only a measure for learning outcomes, but as you saw in the findings, it has a potential to uncover other challenges towards attaining SDG 4, for example, the extent of non-enrollment and dropouts, which are going to be actually prominent probably after the COVID-19. So once again, I thank the panelists and speakers on behalf of PAL Network, but we also want to thank the good participants for your dedication. Finding time during this busy schedule is not something that we take for granted. Thank you so much for your inspiring questions and feedback. Some of the questions have been ably responded to by the panelists, and we thank you, panelists. But many questions, due to time constraints, have not been answered. As the panel chair mentioned, PAL Network will be sharing, will be responding to these questions formally, and these will be responded to and posted on the web. We also finally invite you to fill our evaluation form. The link will be shared with you after this session. Kindly respond, because we always want to improve what we do and learn from you. Once again, thank you very, very much. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much. And we have finished maybe 4 minutes before the hour. I guess it is good to keep time. So we really appreciate, and as has been stated, we will respond to the questions and post something on our web, and we do have your email addresses. Asanteni sana. Some people joined in from Perth, Australia. It must be midnight there, and it must be very early in the morning somewhere. So this would not have been possible if COVID had not happened. So there are a few perhaps golden streaks that can bring us together, and any moment is a moment in which we can always do something new. Asanteni sana, and thank you very much for having made the time to join us. Let us now have the PAL leaders and the panelists remaining, and the others you can please leave at your pleasure.
If we can identify who from the media wants to ask questions, I can also allow them to talk.
Yes, please. Anybody, Aizal, maybe you can support us with that. I do not know how many media people we have, and anybody who has a specific question and perhaps to also direct it to a specific panelist. We have people over here from Africa, from Asia, from the Americas, and you can ask your question in any of the 3 languages that you please, English, French, or Spanish. So the media people, if you could just identify yourselves, then it will ease our connecting you. Have you seen any requests or responses, Osman?
Not yet. I was
Okay.
just checking if Aisel and Dion are here. They're both here.
Okay, Aisel, Dion, could you just update us whether we should keep the people waiting or everybody can leave?
Thank you, Sarah. I haven't seen any question from the media.
Okay. So shall we then close the meeting?
I think so.
Okay. Members, thank you very, very much. We had already shared a media advisory, so maybe that was already good enough. I have already seen some updates in the Kenyan media. I do not know about yours. So perhaps they did not need anything more from us. Thank you very, very much. There are so many questions that were asked, so we will respond to them.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Everyone.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Wonderful.
It was an honor to be here. I think this is historical. Thank you very, very much.
Lovely to meet all the panelists.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
God bless you all.
Thank you so much. It has been an honor. Thank you so much for letting me be with you and actually launch this. It's very moving. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great moment. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right.